And then they had an agreement where they would punch each other in the stomach and take a shot after every round until somebody puked. And then Dave lost. Dave puked, and then they were friends after that. This is like, it's just like a construction zone because now everybody's here. And I guess the new office isn't going to be ready until, who knows, mid-October. So it was supposed to be.
Bro, what? I've been hearing about this for 18 months and it's not ready?
I will say this is a Chicago thing, probably not a Barstool thing. I don't know if you've heard of this. We had this big fire like 100 years ago. Now, like, they take construction and all regulations like very seriously because the whole city burned down. So they like there's all these like old laws. Like you can't have like if you're gonna like build a house, you're like, oh, it'd be nice to have a fire pit. They're like, you have to have this fire pit in this location, otherwise, and it's this type of fire, otherwise you're out. So,
one little fire and the whole city becomes in the ass.
What are the odds that happens again?
Boston drowned in maple syrup. We still let everyone have all the maple syrup they want.
Yeah.
So you're telling me everybody's in your office now?
So like our big studio, right? The one that you feed us where we do all the shows. That's been like, I don't know, it's like under plastic bags. There's paint everywhere. Stefan's been like working nonstop, like getting other capabilities for live streams to come out of there. I don't know what's going on.
That's separate from the new shit?
So like we have that new office that's being built on like the west side of town.
Okay, I didn't know that you guys were keeping your thing. I thought it was all going to go into there.
Yeah, well, they have to because everybody moved here and it was like, oh, it'll only be a couple weeks where we overlap. And now it's like when Pete was here for, I think it was the Barstool, the Corn Ferry thing. He's like, yeah, we actually extended the lease on this to the end of the year. I'm like, what are you not saying? What are you not telling us? That's not a good indication, Mr. September 15th. So we'll see.
I will say this for a company that overall is wildly incompetent, just in every facet. Construction wise, when they tell that when it was the Chernin office, the new studios, et cetera, when they tell me a date, they usually nail it. And I'm always like, yeah, fucking right. That's 6 weeks away. That's 1 week away, whatever it is. And they usually nail it. So maybe it is the Chicago difference. I don't know. But
I know there was also like some pipe that was running underneath the basketball court that they like that failed an inspection of some kind. And it's like, well, we'll see you in 2024.
I was going to say the fantasy factory is, it might be a real fantasy.
Yeah.
Well, Kevin, do you see what's happening?
Is everybody works from home.
Yes.
There is no office anywhere.
What did you say, Frank?
Do you see what's happening in New York today, Kevin?
I did not. In the office?
Yeah.
What?
Bro, I'd like to see you go to I quote tweeted Jack Mack. I don't know who would be the easier way to find it, me or Jack Mack.
Okay.
Oh, that's not great.
Find your stuff. I perhaps spoke too soon.
What is even going on there? Why are they?
No one knows. They didn't tell anybody anything.
It looks like they're rebuilding desks for whatever fucking reason that is. So they took everything and put it in the middle of the room. I mean, well, this is probably because of the outlets.
I would imagine so. I think people would have liked maybe a heads up that
this is going to happen sort of thing. Yeah. Wow. That is the new office. It's I would say HQ2 was far and away the most successful new office we ever had.
Yes.
Like it was still, we were still such pieces of shit that we were excited for that, and it was like still kind of a small group, So it was like, this is cool. There's a bar, there's enough space, 2 studios, we're good. And then within like 35 seconds, it was like, get me out of this fucking closet.
Dude, I think this is, I said it about when we built a new office, which no one beats a dead horse like Barstool Sports. We've talked about new offices for 2 years now. But what
do you think we do more? Talk about new offices or celebrate anniversaries? every month. It's my 13th month anniversary. It's my 14-month anniversary. It's my 15th month anniversary of Barstool Sports.
I think it's dead horses, man. I think it's dead horses. I think we beat the shit out of them. But let me get in my licks real quick.
And I got one too.
I said it when we had the quote unquote new office in New York that is now being destroyed already. That like all you can do is make cool shit, because I still remember, like you're saying, we like within 35 seconds we were like, fuck this place. I still love HQ.
No, yeah, I shouldn't say that. I just meant we outgrew it right away. But yes,
yeah.
That is so true. Whatever you're making in that spot is what makes it good or not.
I still have nothing but fond memories for HQ2. I do not have them yet for HQ3.
I had fond memories up until a certain point. And then it turned south. But before that, it was all good. It was just like because you know what it was? There was still, and I'm interested to hear where you think what you think on this, Chief, because Chicago is still like, it's almost like Chicago is like Ghosts of Christmas Past for Barstool, because you guys still are like a small group that kind of keeps it real and keeps it Barstool. But everybody got like, fucking entitled, and like expectations were high and all sorts of shit. Going into that first studio, I mean, very quickly, every celebrity that came through was like, this fucking studio sucks. And I remember Nardini saying to me that she was like looking through the glass watching me record. And she was like, you are just like beaming. Like, you're so happy to have your own place. And it was 4 white walls with a strip of noise canceling insulation. Yep. And that was it. And I was like, because at that point I was either recording in like my kid's nursery or rented space in Hell's Kitchen or a basement in my mom's house and all that shit. So it was like, this is amazing. Then, you get used to that. And all of a sudden it's like, I want my studio to look like this. And I want to have this painting and this statue and these, features and all that. So, everybody got too cocky about it. But I feel like you guys, the Chicago office, that you guys are in now, not the new one, but the one that you're talking about now, I think has HQ2 vibes.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that H2, real quick on HQ2, what, that was a hard thing for me to say for some reason, but I was working my old job and I had like a customer out there. So I went and did my meeting, and then I'm like, I don't want to sit in a Starbucks. So I just like texted Dan, like, can I just come in and use the Wi-Fi and work? And I think that office had been open for maybe a month. And Riggs like got up to go to the bathroom, and I just walked in and stole his seat. It was the only seat available. And it was like after a month. So like that place was never big enough from the word go. And then, yeah, like this office, like I have no complaints about this office. I think it's, served us well. I remember when we had the shared space, like that famous Portnoy video where he's like, what are you doing? Like, we're $1 billion company.
What are you doing?
Yeah. That one, the room that he walked into, I remember like, because we just had the smaller room in the way back, and Ed was like, we should get that space too. And I was like, that's too expensive. It's like another $400 a month. Like, they'll never go for it. Like, don't ask for that. Like, I thought that was like too much to ask. Like, we could all just work in this 8x8 room and it'll be fine. Like, shut up. And so now, like, when we walked into this place, I was like, oh shit, we got furniture.
Living in well, I think that right there, what you just said, might be the delineation, like the line that I can tell if you're like a real one or not from Barstool's point of view. If you worry about spending the company's money, you're probably from the old era. Like I probably respect you. Like if you're like, $400 a month, yeah, they might fire us. We might lose our job over that. You're probably, an early day guy.
Well, that and then the company I was working for immediately before we went full time went bankrupt. So I was always coming ready, so.
That too, because you know,
like, I don't need to eat food today. I was a lot skinnier back then.
That's another thing too, though, is, you know, most people were like signing now are like they've never had another job or never had any other sort of life. So if you have a previous life and you actually probably to a fault worry about money, then you know, I feel like Chief and the Chicago guys are like it's funny because now you guys are like OG guys, you know, like I mean you were pretty early. When did you sign up?
Well, 2012, then you fired me, and then I came back.
That's right. Yep.
And then I came back like April of 13, but it was super part-time. Like I do like during the hockey playoffs when the Hawks were great, I would probably write every day. Right. But then the rest of the year, it might be like, I don't know, once or twice a week, something like that. So
well, that's what you're talking about is a full-time job now.
Well, yeah, true.
I feel like, you know, you're not like once enough time goes by, you kind of get grandfathered in as you're not like original six, but you're like the Predators. You were an expansion team, but now you're like fully entrenched in the league.
Well, Kevin, that's great news because my contract's up November 1st and no one said it. Thanks for.
Well, let me tell you this: you'll probably work without one until like January 1st because I don't think this company realizes that people's contracts expire and you have to sign them to new ones.
I should just go on strike. Just do the Costanza work and just get paid for doing nothing.
Let me tell you something. When that whole union thing went down, and we were all laughing about it, and then and Dave was kind of like, "Why the fuck would these people need a union? Like, they've got the cushiest job." And like 99% of the way, he's correct that like these 80% of the company gets paid for free, like to not do anything. Why would you ever want to unionize and fight back? But I do remember there's a couple of times where like we're talking about contracts and money and profits and all that shit. And I was like, man, I wish that we could like come together and kind of like negotiate this all at once as one team. Yeah, that's what it is.
I heard Nicky Smokes talking about that earlier. We gotta fucking unionize.
This fucking guy, he's the bane of my existence, man.
Nicky Smokes is?
Well, every time I come in, they go, "Did you see Nick's video?" And I'm like, I'm thinking of my Nick. There's like 50 Nicks, and the last one on the list in my life is Nicky Smokes. I thought he was Nicky. What did I call him the other day? Nicky Sweets. I was calling him Nicky Sweets. He makes videos responding to our video, our segment we did the other day, talking about his salary. I'm like, I can't even.
He did to ours?
Yes. He apparently
that's his full-time job is responding to Kevin.
Yeah.
What did he say? What did we say?
We were saying how like he's, you know, fell ass backwards into a $100,000 salary, and we were saying how, you know, it was more like we were talking about the company. I was like, I do not begrudge this guy at all for taking this contract, but it's bullshit that there are guys who worked here for like 10 years before they got to that level. And while he, you know, has every right to absolutely take the contract, maybe just do one or two things to like ingratiate yourselves to the guys who made it literally possible for you to just drop like $100,000 out of the sky into your pocket. And I didn't listen to it with the sound on. He was like filming.
So far, I don't think we overstepped yet, but I've made a mistake with that before. So
I mean, he posted it like KFC's talking about my contract again, and I didn't listen to what I didn't have the sound on. I guess he was talking over it, but I was like, yeah, well, you know, don't worry. In 6 more months, no one will talk about your contract ever again, dude. So we'll.
Oh, you said that?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Now I think Nicky Smokes has fair beef.
Yeah.
Well, now it's on. But before that, it was like, what are we talking about here? But he's in Chicago too?
Yeah, he's
Oh yeah. He was doing that completely fake segment on your show the other day where he pretended not to know anybody.
I was astounded, but he keeps that going like off camera too. Like I'm like, I had to ask him if he knew who Leonardo DiCaprio was because I was like not sure. Like,
did you see that, Fights?
No.
he was like, he said he didn't know who Blake Lively was, Nicole Kidman, like a bunch of other like.
If you don't play for the Dolphins, he's never heard of you. Like that. He has called me Beast every day. He's like, "Oh, what's up, Beast?"
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he thinks I'm Barstool Beast. Like I don't think he knows anything.
This is an act, right?
I don't. Well, like you have to be. We were talking about this on our show the other day. Like if it's like a satirical Miami guy, like we were like, "What is satire?" Like nobody really knows. That was like a Feitelberg thing. But it was like the only person who I think actually does it is probably PFT. If this kid is like some sneaky comedic genius and he's doing method acting of how to be like a Miami douchebag, then
get plenty more contracts. Maybe we're underpaying him.
I feel like we do that a lot with new employees, and I finally come to terms with just the fact that people are weird, man. Like, I feel like every time there's a new employee at Barstool who's like a little eccentric, we're always like, they're faking it, they're putting it on, they're doing something different. And I think Marty was the one where I was like, nah, he's just wrong a lot.
Well, you know, I think like if Frank Fleming told me he's never heard of Blake Lively, I'd be like, that's entirely possible. Like Frank is, you know, for up until recently was like living in that basement, getting pizzas slid through the window while he does nothing but watch Mets baseball. It just from the outside looking in, like judging a book by its cover, he doesn't seem like a guy who would be, you know, like I don't know who the most famous actresses in the world are, but
yeah. And I like with that dozen, I can't do the celebrity mashup, but I'll like recognize their faces, or if somebody says their name, I'll be like, oh yeah. But like, I just like, I have kind of like a pop culture blind spot for celebrities. I thought until I met Nicky Smokes, and I'm like, this guy,
dude. Yeah. The most embarrassing thing about me is I'm good at celebrity mashup. That's your red flag. Yeah. There are times I don't want to get it right. I'm like, oh fuck, that's Drew Barrymore and John Hamm or whatever. I'm like, damn it, I got another one. It's like all the questions I can answer on the dozen are the same things that all the girls are good at. Fuck.
That's like we had to go get Kelly Keeks. I'm like, this is the only thing that we're missing is somebody who can do all the music without having to call somebody, because Dave has a guy that Dave thinks like he's the best music guy in the world, but we just use his lifeline. He's like, oh, another point for Dave.
A music podcaster. He's got to know everything, right?
He does.
That was the Henry Ford, right? Was it Henry Ford who like had that famous thing where he was like, you come in, I can get you the answer. I can't answer it, but I'll get you the answer to any question you want. Yeah. And he's like, you ask a question, you just make a phone call.
Yeah.
Like, I got it. I nailed it. And if you can do that, Henry Ford got pretty rich, pretty famous doing that. If Dave can do that, then I tip my cap to him.
I never had heard that story, but I had like a big time imposter syndrome in my last job, and in this job too, but especially in the last job, where people would ask me these questions like I don't know, like engineering thing, like I don't fucking know. Give me 24 hours and I'll get back to you, and I'll have somebody like write this as detailed as you can so an idiot could read it, and then I would just call them back the next day with an answer. So I always
that's a skill in and of itself, though. Like that is a little bit snake it till you make it, and a little bit like I will just find the person or the thing or the whatever you need to get this shit done. I mean, if you want, you can do anything in the world at this point and just watch YouTube and learn how to do it. Like
I think I could fix a car, maybe build a car.
That's what I mean. Like, I could fucking maybe us building a boat to sail across the sea, John, is not that far fetched. It's just about whether you're willing to do it, because it's like there's entire college curriculums basically on YouTube. You just have to fucking sit there and go through it, but you can do it all. It's just a matter of.
I would just need all the videos to be like 6 minutes or less. 12. I'm like, 12 minutes. 12 minutes to learn how to build a car. Sorry.
It's funny you say that, because there was a period of time where 1 Minute Man was like well longer than 1 minute, And then now it's like never over 90 seconds so that it can fit on Instagram Reels. But when it was a bigger story or more details, I would, go for 5-6 minutes. And yet every single time I myself would open up a video, if it was 5 or 6 minutes, I'd be like, Jesus fucking Christ, I don't got time for this. Like, give me 1 or 2 minutes and that's it. But when I make them, I was like, I got to fit this other minute in and I need this segment. And how could I forget about that? So make it 9 minutes long.
I will say, though, with those, I remember those longer ones, obviously, too. There was some magic that you were doing with like the editing or the cadence or something. It was almost like it felt like 5 1-minute videos in one. Like I never I don't know. It wasn't like, all right, swipe this out.
That's kind of it was early TikTok days where, we weren't on TikTok and we were doing longer videos, but it was always a jump cut and me changing my voice or changing the topic that I'm talking about. So it was always just like, oh, I got to know this part. I got to know that part. And I got to, keep it going. Now it's like, man, I don't know. I almost think we've come all the way back around that long form stuff is almost getting to be appreciated more because some of this like micro content is like, boy, I'm almost starting to get nervous. Like, geez, we are getting like collectively stupid here by watching all this shit.
It is like, I think there's kind of a place for everything in a way. Like, I'll listen to like a 3-hour podcast and like not all at once, but if I'm over the course of a day, like if it's like an interesting guest or guest subject, whatever, I'll walk the dog with it in, I'll make dinner with it in, and I'll just over the course of maybe 2 days, like I'll finish the 3 hours on doing all like the other mundane things I have to do. I just have headphones in. And I feel like I'd probably do that more than actually, never mind. I fall into TikTok vortexes all the time where it's like, oh, you'll be sitting there watching a baseball game. And all of a sudden it's like the 7th inning. You're like, I saw nothing except for
those time holes, man. Yeah. Like they just go. The only thing I found worse is video games. Now I started playing video games again in my later years. I'm like 6 hours go by like that. I'm like, oh my God, I'm one of those fucking guys.
Those are the ones I never fell into. I thought I was gonna on that path where I was gonna get shorter and shorter and shorter. I never got shorter than TV. I don't watch 10-minute videos. Not that that's too long. It's just I don't want. That's I almost that's too short. Like I watch a TV show is the short. I've never done a TikTok hole. I've never done I've never opened Instagram Reels. I've watched a reel on my feed, but then
you're fucking amazing. We make sure when you inevitably kill yourself, straight to the chest, Junior Seau style, so we can study that brain, because it feels like nobody is immune to it, but I think you are. Whatever John has, he's the cure. Like we need to study his blood and mass produce it so that we can get off of this shit, because
it's part I'm not interested in it. Like if someone sends me a TikTok, it's a pain in my goddamn ass because I don't have the app, so I'll have to open it in fucking whatever, but I'll watch it. But I'm not I got to see more of these. I'm not. Huh?
What do you do on your phone?
What do I do on my phone?
Are you on Twitter?
I scroll Instagram stories. I don't watch them, but I just tap through them. And then I'll do. I never scroll the grid on Instagram, that down. I don't do that. I do Twitter a good amount, and then I guess not much. I guess I do
what
a little.
What are you doing with your day?
I do a dozen. I do the New York Times Mini. I do Duolingo. And that's about 40 minutes. That's 40 minutes to start my day, and then that's about it.
So you're more likely to do 24 hours of Fast and Furious than a 90-second reel. That's,
I guess I just I don't know. It is. I almost instinctively joined the conversation there. I was like, oh yeah, definitely, me too. But as I think about it, I don't really do the short. Yeah. If someone sends me a YouTube and it's 6 minutes long, I'm like, ugh. Yeah. But I'm not doing the shorter stuff. I basically just watch TV and movies.
And am I mistaken, or do you read books too? I feel like you do.
I read. I go through phases. I go through phases of I'm reading books right now. But then I'll probably read 10 to 15 books a year.
Oh, I feel like that's top 1% in the world.
Oh, that's so fucking many. You don't read 15 books a year, you lie.
15 is probably high, but
a book a month?
One a month's probably high, but I hit 10 at least.
Okay. I'll do
I'm throwing the challenge flag. We won't belabor the point, but I'm throwing the challenge flag on that.
So I guess it depends on annual per. I'm on a pace right now of I'm probably on my 4th, 5th book this summer, but summer I read a little more.
Yeah,
it varies. I think 10's a fair number.
I've done a bunch of audiobooks. I've been doing that the last couple years too. Yeah. And I feel like this is so stupid and vain, but I feel like I want to buy the hardcover books just to have them on a shelf of books that I listen to. So when people come over, I read that. Yeah.
One of the what I think one of life's great, not mysteries, but something that's a commonality throughout. For whatever reason, owning a book, maybe because you feel smarter, maybe because you like the cover art, but whatever it is, almost everybody in the world would say they like that better than a Kindle or a audiobook.
Yeah, 100%.
They want it on their shelf. It is. I consume them like you do, but if you ask me, do I like the way a book is? Absolutely. I don't know why. There's because it shouldn't necessarily be something everybody agrees on, but there's just something. It makes me think that reading will just never disappear, no matter how advanced we get, because it's just something about it in the human mind. You just want your book.
I have some old soul stuff about me, I guess, as I don't do TikTok, and I would never consider reading an ebook.
Yeah,
I've never had an iPad or anything.
Yeah,
or I wouldn't do an audiobook either. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it.
I would definitely listen to it, but I would never you click the screen to turn the page. That's, I mean, bajillions of people do it, so I can't be that's so weird. But to me, that's just
if you have to click something to turn the page, you might as well just have the real
page.
Yeah.
I went to somebody's house one time and they just had these stacks of books on their mantle, and you opened them up and it was blank pages. They were just decorative books, but they were different sizes, and it was
that's you're trying way too hard.
Nothing in there.
Wait, were they titled? They had
no, they were. They would look like a hardcover book without the paper jacket.
Yeah.
And then you would just open it up. I'm like, is this a journal? And they're like, no, it's just an aesthetic decoration. I'm like, why wouldn't you just? I was I started to ask a question. I'm like, never mind.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
I personally have to thank HelloFresh, because without HelloFresh, my esteemed colleague and co-host John Feitelberg would probably be dead by now. He's been on his own, a drifter, a grifter, and he probably would never eat if it wasn't for HelloFresh. That's the only meals he eats. And not only does it keep him alive, it gets him to be up and awake and healthy and happy. Well, not happy, let's be honest. Not even HelloFresh could change that. But through their meal prep, John is able to feed himself and be a great part of KFC Radio every single day. And if you know John, you know that they have to make it as simple as possible for a moron like him to be able to do it. So John Feitelberg is the proof that HelloFresh is idiot-proof. It's the best meal prep kit in America, where they send you all the ingredients and all the spices and everything you need, everything pre-portioned with a recipe card. So all you got to do is throw it in, mix it up, cook it for 20, maybe 30 minutes max, and you have yourself a freshly prepared meal that tastes better than your soggy takeout. It costs less than your delivery fees, and it's all with organic and fresh materials delivered right to your door. Right now, go to HelloFresh.com/50KFC. That's HelloFresh.com/50KFC and get 50% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/50KFC, promo code 50KFC for half off your first box at HelloFresh.com.
I'm reading a book right now that has never made me feel dumber. It's Blood Meridian, because Cormac McCarthy, who, first of all, I just read Sam Tallent's book, which is great. But on the back of it is someone says, like, just as brutal as anything Cormac McCarthy ever wrote. And I love Sam Tallent's book. And then Cormac McCarthy just died and was considered like the last great American writer. So I was like, fuck it, might as well go with Blood Meridian. I'm like 50 pages in. I couldn't tell you shit that's happened. It's so like, it's crazy. But I'm going to push through because he has one of the, when he died, they were interviewing, they were like, quotes coming out from wives and a couple of his ex-wives and stuff like that. And one of the dopest quotes I've ever read was that he was the last real writer because his second ex-wife, I think he'd already written Blood Meridian. He wrote like No Country for Old Men. He wrote a bunch of
okay.
And the book, not the movie. Yeah. They say he was the last real writer we ever had because his wife, I forget after what hit book it was, but it was after one of his hit books. And she was like, we lived in a shed on a farm. We had to bathe in a river and we 8 cans of beans because we were so poor. And schools would call, like colleges would call and offer to pay $10,000 for him to come talk about X book for an hour. And he would reply, anything I have to say about the book, I said in the book. And he would just continue living poor. I was like, that's gangster. That's a fucking artist right there, man.
I was about to say before you told that story, and I think Chief is a good person to have on for this discussion. I do think there's something gangster about being one of those writers, like, yes. I mean, obviously like a Hemingway or a, J.D. Salinger or something, but even like Hunter S. Thompson and those guys who like, they're all a little crazy. They're all like addicts and abusive and wild and weird. I will say that might be my line. Living literally like a caveman when you could just, live normal by just talking about, the book you love, the book you wrote. That might be a little bit like, but
anything I had to say about the book, I said in the book.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
Yeah. The line is eating beans for a meal.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the line.
If you are eating beans like a hobo under a bridge, like that's where I'm not going that far. But and to draw comparisons is silly because we were never like writers. Blogging is its own unique thing that I do think is a talent and I do think deserves, some respect, but I would never compare it to like writing great novels and shit like that. But I liked myself better when I was like, I'm a writer, even when, when I was like single and you're messing around with chicks, it's like tell a girl you're a writer versus like, I'm a podcaster or like I'm an influencer or whatever. You're like, no, I write. It was always like, oh, you write, like, ooh.
That is true. There is, I don't know what I ever said. We always talk about that there is like the most difficult part of working at Barstool for as long as we have has been just describing what we do in different ways. Like you got to use some kind of word. And I think I'd always be like, I kind of like you're saying, like, I would never say I'm a writer, but I would like, I write stuff on, I wouldn't say articles, but I didn't want to say blogs either. So I'd be like, I write things on the internet. Like this guy doesn't have a fucking job.
I
just say I'm in media. I'm like, I'm in media. And
that's a catch-all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how what I think is really cool for all of us is when we're on our deathbed, we were like are still, but definitely were in the infancy of all this shit, and that's basically the evidence you need right there. When you're doing something and there's not a name for it yet, when you're just like nobody's really just like coined the phrase for what I do. That's how you're either very early on, or you're just being an asshole by not saying what you are. But when you look at, all this shit, like we were early, like podcasting, blogging, even if there's a couple people that predate you, it's just a couple people. Like that's it.
Just you guys. For us, it's kind of just you guys that predate us.
Yeah. To me, it's like Bill Simmons was kind of blogging and podcasting first. Joe Rogan, Kevin Smith, Bobby Kelly, the Nerdist guys.
Tyler Durden.
What?
Tyler Durden. Tyler Durden was my favorite.
Yeah. Well, that was blogging for sure. Delisted. Mark Maron. But, so I'm up to like 10 people, and I'm already like, I'm sure there's a few more. But when you can list individually all the people that's it, that's done it before you, you're very, very early on. So I think that's cool. That's a cool thing to like be a part of.
It is weird. Like when you're dating, this was like a couple of years ago, like you meet a girl's parents for the first time and they're like, what do you do? And it's like, oh, like, how do I explain this to a 60-year-old like that? Like, and they're like, so you don't have a job? I'm like, no, like I pay taxes, I get paid, like, but I definitely am self-supporting, all that. But their thing is like, you're on Twitter, you don't have a job.
Yeah.
It's funny that that's like flipped in a way now, where it's like, for the most part, in recent years, it's gotten like, famous really with Barstool and Dave and everything, pizza, the fund, like everybody knows Barstool one way or another. It's almost like I expect people to know now, which is something, like I almost am like, there'll be times where if I'm meeting somebody for the first time, if I'm in a weird scenario, I'm awkward because I'm like, they know who I am and they know what Barstool is, but I don't know them. And like, what do I say? What do I do? So, and I might be wrong. Maybe that's narcissistic. Maybe they don't know. More often than not, I feel like they do know. But that's a long cry from when it used to be like, nobody's going to even be able to understand when I explain it, let alone you already know it on your own.
It's worse now. It's way worse now.
What do you mean?
People knowing?
Like that experience, because back then it was like, it's at least kind of interesting where you're like, all right, we can have a conversation about this and I can explain to you, and you'll walk away either like that guy doesn't have a job, or that dude's gonna die, or like that dude's never gonna have any money, or blah blah blah. But like I mean, there was a time where you're like, this is fucking gonna die. And it's like, I work in a fucking repurposed dentist office and I go on a tour and drink and have a blackout tour. Like that dude.
Yeah.
But now I'm like almost reluctant to even say it. Not because I'm embarrassed or anything like that, but just like everyone's gonna have an opinion. And it's either gonna be you're right now, you're like, if someone's like, where do you do? You're like, I'm either going to say something that you're going to love so much it's going to annoy me, or you're going to hate so much it's going to annoy me. And I don't feel like fucking doing that.
Very true.
How much do you guys run into they hate it so much? Because I haven't really experienced that too much.
I would say, again, I could count it on maybe one hand. I mean, I feel like I haven't had like any conversations about it. There's definitely been like, a guy comes up to me, I can tell his girlfriend doesn't care for it, but she just kind of ignores it, stays, just doesn't talk to me and then leaves. I'm trying to think if I had like an incident where people were like, oh, Barstool, like, fuck you. Because that's...
Didn't someone throw a drink on you before? Well,
so that was the one. No, they didn't. What happened was, it was before our show a couple years back in
Gramercy Theater.
Yes, Gramercy Theater. And so a girl came up to me at the bar pre-show and was like, are you that Barstool guy? And I said yes. And as we started to talk, I realized she thought I was Dave. I think she started talking about pizza and all this other shit. And I don't remember her being particularly nasty about it, but she was a little bit like aggressive and combative kind of. And I was like, oh, you think I'm Dave. I'm not him. I'm the other guy. And then she kind of like said, oh, okay, and walked away. And I didn't realize it, but everybody who I was with was like, that girl had her drink cocked, ready to go.
It was awesome. It was actually where I learned I was not going to take a bullet for Kevin. I was like, this is fucking...
Also, it was where
I didn't even take a vodka soda for you.
It was like the hand went from here to here, even the way she was holding a glass, like she had her hand on top at first, like when you're having a conversation, and that rotated, like everything was like the tank cannon. I was like, this thing's gonna hit him right in the face. I had my phone out. I was ready. I was like, this is gonna be crazy.
I mean, that's where I learned about myself that I apparently have no instincts or like combat survival instincts, because I was like, what are you guys talking about? I was like, yeah, she's weird and like not nice. And everyone was like, that chick was about to spit on your face, throw a drink at you, and kick you in the dick. I was just like, oh, she was a little weird. But that was the only time I can think of it. And then there was one time, just randomly, I was walking in the streets. I think I had just gone on a date with this chick, and some drunk girl, like pinballing her way down the block, couldn't even stand up. And it was in the like smack in the middle of tabloid days for me. And she was just screaming about that stuff, like right down Fifth Avenue. And I wanted to, first of all, I'm on a date with this chick and she knows the deal, but it's also like, don't love being fucking publicly, humiliated. But I wanted to be like, excuse me, miss, you are in no position right now to be throwing stones. Like, yeah, I'll take it from anybody, but not from someone who's so blind drunk they can't stand up. Like their friends were carrying her and they were like, I'm so sorry. I was like, nah, you're not allowed to. Not right now. Sober up and then you can talk shit to me.
Like I could throw you right now and you'll be in the New York Post. Like that's how drunk you are. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's people always say like, if I ever catch you in public, and I'm like, if you catch me in public, you're probably going to buy me a beer. To be honest, that's usually what happens is people say, can I buy you a beer? So unless you're really crazy or really tough, you're probably not going to do anything good.
Have you heard the White Sox Dave response to that? What he does to people who say that to him?
No.
He's had two instances, and they are the first one. He was at some South Side bar, the White Sox, and this guy was like, I don't like you. And Dave's like, well, then I don't like you either. And then they had an agreement where they would punch each other in the stomach and take a shot after every round until somebody puked. And then Dave lost. Dave puked, and then they were friends after that. But he traded gut punches. Yeah, this was like a year or 2 years ago, probably. Yes.
I thought you were going to say like this is like 2010.
Nope. He was fully. I think it was probably on his second contract with Barstool, and fully. Probably 2021. It was like maybe the first real baseball season after COVID. And then he was just like, yep, I lost that one. I puked outside the bar.
Hang on.
I think I'd heard of this, but I'm not in such detail. I knew he had like some kind of tussle or something like that. I don't think I knew it was a gut punch shot.
Oh, it was like, all right, your turn.
and how many rounds did they go?
I think like maybe 6 rounds, something like 5 rounds, 6 rounds of just gut punch, JMO, gut punch, JMO.
Now, you know what? I'll say this, though. Like, that guy, deep down, actually doesn't hate him as much as, you know what I mean? Like, if you're, you don't do that with someone who you, like, actually, that's like, I disagree with your fucking baseball opinions. And I think that, I think I'm funnier than you and I should have your job sort of shit. But not like I, dislike you as a person. Because if you do some like, all right, let's man up and go, then, as a matter of fact, he's probably identical to White Sox.
Well, that's what it must have been like. I'm looking in the mirror. Because how many people on planet Earth would agree to do something like that? It's probably 2 guys, and they found each other. So
that's actually remarkable. Yeah, to think that like the probability of those 2 guys crossing paths in that exact moment and being like, and was it his idea? Dave's idea?
I don't remember that detail, but I know like they hung out like the rest of the night, like just chopping it up, having a good time.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing where like they should be like best friends now.
Yeah.
Like he's in my wedding. He's my best man or something. Shot for shot, punch for punch. KFC Radio is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes we're faced with crossroads in life and we don't know which path to take. Maybe you're thinking about a career change or you're feeling like your relationship needs some TLC. Whatever it is, therapy can help you map out your future and trust to find that way forward. For me, it's like I got to worry about what path I'm going to take with my family, what path I'm going to take with work, what path I'm going to take personally, with my friends, with my money, with my career. There's about 1 million paths I got to worry about taking, and I don't know anything about any of them. So I go to BetterHelp and I'm just like, can you help me with absolutely every single thing that a person can worry about? Because that's pretty much the only way that I'm going to get through this life. The only way I get things off my chest and make sure that I'm even slightly headed in the right direction is through BetterHelp. So if you're thinking about starting therapy like me, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You can text, you can call, you can do video chat. All of it's through the computer. You don't have to go. You don't have to meet in person. You don't have to worry about waiting rooms, commuting, none of that. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/KFC today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/KFC. You got to give it to Dave. I would imagine the guy was probably a little bit bigger than him. Dave's not like a huge dude, so I feel like
Dave gets a lot of shit. Dave's a good guy, but he gets
the best. I hate his guts.
I love Dave. And
did you meet him through Barstool?
Yeah, I the first night I met him, we had a watch party for that the 17 seconds, like the game 6. We had some Barstool watch party for Bruins Blackhawks Stanley Cup. That was the first night I met him. So
what was your initial impression of him?
Like that night, he was a little bit quiet, like nice, talkative, but I was like, I don't know, I was very on edge. It was game 6 of the Stanley Cup final. So, but he was fun and he was fine. Like I didn't like know he was how he is until like the, and he's like a very different guy. This is 10 years ago, right? So he was probably 24, but like
is he that different though?
He has, I would say, as someone who, I'd say he's grown, like he's matured quite a bit, in a lot of ways, and in other ways, not at all.
At all, yeah.
Because, you would think he must have been 33 at the time of the gut punch off. You would think that you might have grown out of that, but no.
I cannot even tell you how far down on the list of things I would do the gut punch shot trade-off is.
Yeah.
Like, I would do all sorts. I would have a regular ass bare knuckle brawl. I would get in the ring. I would do a million other things before I do let you punch me while we also choke down shots. To be doing that at age 33 is fucking insane. At the same time, like pretty kind of cool. Like that's some weird.
It's awesome. It's so
like
funny.
Chris Thompson and Ernest Hemingway probably did that sitting in weird holes,
Yeah, and it's just like it's like a modern day duel. Like they duel.
Yeah.
So I love that story. His other one is that he will hold his hands underneath the table, and like if someone's really giving him shit, then I'll let you hit me as hard as you can, and then it's on. Like so that's the other thing he says, and I've seen him do that, and he is not joking.
And
that one I've heard. That's the one I've heard.
Yeah,
that's a fucking baller line.
Like,
you can hit me as hard as you can, but I'm hitting back.
Yeah.
And has anybody ever done it?
No, I've seen him issue that challenge, but they didn't take him up on it. So, but I've seen that like in person.
It's kind of one of those things. Like I've been in one fight my whole life when I was in 8th grade. Everything else has been like scuffle, pushing at the bar, but a fight. If you are calm, cool, and collected as that's happening, you can do shit like that. Like 100% of the time, no one's going to punch you in the face. But you got to be willing to do that and like keep cool and not be, jittery and like, you know what I mean? And if you could just stay calm in those moments, you probably can issue all sorts of challenges and ultimatums, and ultimately the person's going to back down. And you'll look.
The time you say that though, and someone fucking knocks you out before you finish your sentence, leaves you sleeping in mashed potatoes.
But you know what? I can't speak for Dave. I don't know how many fights he's been in. I would imagine once you have been punched in the face a decent amount, and you can take a punch. Like if I brace myself right now, I'll be able to just eat this and then fight back, judging on the guy's size and all that shit. Once like I can do that, you're probably like, all right, what's the worst that can happen? I mean, the fucking Velcro wall took him out harder than these guys at the bar.
Not all punches are created equal, but he does just have like, even when I look at him, he just has like one of those faces and one of those heads where it's just like, I don't know if you guys are Simpsons fans, but it was like there's an episode where Homer was a boxer and he like could not be knocked out. Like so, and I feel like Dave could take a punch.
Yeah, he's got like a bucket head. It's like a head that could just.
Yeah. And he is like, and I've seen him, I think he's. And there was that line to your point, it was like, remember, the name Sonny Liston, the guy who fought like Muhammad Ali? And it was like the only thing Sonny Liston was afraid of was a crazy person.
Yeah.
And Muhammad Ali like made himself seem like insane. So Sonny Liston was like, I don't want nothing to do with this guy. And he like, so he went down like kind of easy.
It's much more of a head game than anything. Now, I mean, maybe for all I know, maybe the next guy who ever takes Dave up on that would just knock him out and put him in his mashed potatoes, like you said. But the best thing I've ever seen was a guy who did exactly that. I think I told the story on KFC Radio recently. It was one guy at Fordham who he used to, I mean, he had a career of fighting at Fordham. Like we were like, he's 27-1 with like 24 knockouts. Like he fought that often. He fought that often that we would talk about like this fight and that fight, the way you talk about like MMA fights, oh, that was McGregor Poirier too. We'd be like, it was him versus him for the third time. He just always fought and always won. And so he was just like, this is just what I do. So he was never frazzled. He was never nervous. And he was talking shit to some guy, and he's like, "Dude, I'll knock you out in 2 seconds." And they were talking shit across the street from each other, and then eventually they cross, and the guy they come into each other, and the guy goes, "I thought you said you'd knock me out in 2," and he just dropped him. He couldn't even finish the sentence. "I thought you said you were gonna," bam, and the guy just hit the ground, and we were like, that's what he does. The coolest. It's so stupid and it's not cool. But I was also like, if I could do that shit, I would go fight every day of my life. I would pick a fight every single day if I could do that.
That is.
Feitelberg's a good fighter.
I've been lucky.
You know what? That's what guys who can knock people out say. Oh, I've been lucky.
I mean, literally, I've thrown like 5 punches. I just get lucky. If
you've thrown 5 punches and basically knocked 5 dudes out, you're not lucky.
No, it's more than 5. The University of Miami fight ended up with a lot more. But those stories, they always like get like any fight story, and any story really gets exaggerated. But there's one. I think it was the day I was born. This is actually wild that my dad was out at a bar the night I was born, but he was out at a bar.
It's a different time. Now it's like, you want to be at the head or the foot? Nah, I'm at the bar fighting.
let me know when he's ready to play catch. He was out at the bar. I think it was the night I was born. It might have been the night my sister was born. And he's like smoking a cigar, sipping a beer, celebrating his kid. and there's this fight at this bar. And my uncle was like, he's like, John, you're not like, they were trying to pick a fight with my dad. And my uncle's like, you're not fighting the night you had, it must have been me. Cause he's like, the night you're not fighting the night you had your first kid. And it spills out into the parking lot. And my uncle's like trying to like break it up and all that. And then my dad's buddy, who had just been drafted, because my dad was like 21, 22 when he had me, had just been drafted by the Seattle Mariners, was yelling at the 2 guys. He goes, I got 2 fists, you'll each get 1. And they kept chirping. And the guy just walked up and went, 1, 2, and hit him with a right and a left and knocked them both out, and they just left.
Like, that's kind of awesome.
I would trade. Now, this is stupid because part of having that story is that you're one of those guys that could do that. So I would give up a significant sum of money to have a story like that and have it be true. Like, if I just throw down a stack of cash and actually 1-2 a couple guys, I would pay more than I should for that. Just to be like, fuck yeah, I did that. That to me is because there's just such a there's a very small portion of the population that gets in fights, and then an even smaller portion that wins. And having a story like that is, I think it changes your whole life. Legit, like if I 1-2'd some guys from that moment on, it would be like before BC and AD. My whole life would be different after that because I know that I could do that to somebody. Oh my God.
Dude, I had that happen to me fairly recently. Let's call it 6 years. Nah, not even 6 years ago. It's actually really emasculating now that I tell it. But I was at a wedding in Gloucester, Mass. And like we were talking about earlier, where like I ran into somebody who does not like Barstool. And like we were at a bar. It was a reception dinner. And then we all went to a bar afterwards. And this dude was just following me around all night, chirping. And I was just ignoring it, hanging out with my friends, all this stuff. And then we're in the parking lot later, and we're like getting into like the bus to go back home, whatever. And the guy's still yelling from across the parking lot. Like, I don't know if he's saying fuck Barstool or fuck me, but he just didn't like either me or what I do. Mm-hmm. And my buddy, the big dude, just hands me his blazer and goes, "I'll be right back." And went and just fucking smoked him, came back, put his jacket on. And I was like, what the? That was really nice, but what the fuck, man? Like, I was choosing not to fight. I can fight if I
could have fought him. Yeah.
That's like Peaky Blinders shit.
Yeah. Yo, what I'm learning here is if you're ever about to go fight, say or do something cool before. Yeah. Because the blazer, if you just knock somebody out, that's one thing. Taking the blazer off and saying, "I'll be right back," and putting it out, that's what makes the fight awesome.
So I went through like a fight phase, but like you said, your buddy is like 27-1. I did not have a winning. Like I remember I was down at Illinois State, and my girlfriend at the time was going there, and she was in the sorority with this kid I went to high school with, and we were friends in high school, and he was like meathead, like middle linebacker football team, good guy, but like that night we were both at the same dance, and we were sitting in the back of like one of those vans that take you, and he kept just like punching me in the arm like hard, and it hurt. And I'm like, "Joe, like you better fucking stop."
As like a playful thing, like I'm gonna.
But it was like he was too drunk, and I was like, "That's like enough. Like it's not fucking funny. Like it hurts." And I said, like, "If you do it again, like we're gonna have a problem." And so we get out of the van, and he punches me in the arm. So then we had a fight, and I lost that one bad. But it's like I had kind of like drawn a line in the sand. I thought that would be enough to get him to stop. It wasn't. So then I had like a contract with myself where I'm like, I can't let this keep happening. And then it got a lot worse. And then I didn't see him after that. I bumped into him at a bar in Chicago like 3 years ago. And like that was the first time I had seen him since the fight. And like we talked about it. It was like a funny story. Like we both were like, "Yeah, well," like he's like, "My bad, dude." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, look, I kind of wish I had just taken a few more punches in the arm."
Well, they say that what's the phrase? If you're gonna lose a fight, make sure they don't want to fight you again, and then it's kind of a wash. You never fought you again.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in sometimes as long as you just answer the bell and you're not a pussy, then you're all right. And if you lose, like people lose fights. Some people lose more than others.
I kind of agree with that though. Like Francis's infamous story of getting beat up by the lobsterman is probably my favorite fight story ever. But
I don't think I know that story.
Oh, it's so good, dude. Like I'll summarize it quickly, but he wrote a blog about it, and he also told it on Matt and Shane's secret podcast with Shane Gillis. And you gotta like get every detail because it's amazing. But long story short, he was in a pizza place after a bar, so everyone's drunk. He's with his one crew of friends. He has another crew of friends, let's say high school and college, whatever it was. He goes over just to say hi to the other crew real quick, like hello, sits down in their booth, just says what's up. While he's just saying hi, a fight breaks out with somebody else. And he's kind of like, I'm not even with these guys tonight. I don't even know these girls that they're fighting over. But some dude just like grabs him and clocks him, and he kind of gets pulled into the scrum, ends up fighting this lobsterman from like the docks of Maine, who he was like, Francis was like, he was like 6'2", and he was like, he ended up kicking me in the face.
Oh.
And then later in the story, he goes, I mean, and that guy, he was like 6'2" and very flexible. And the guys were like, how did you know he was flexible? And he was like, because he kicked me in the face.
Oh.
And they were like, he was standing up. He gave him a boot while standing. And Francis isn't a short guy either. So he gets kicked in the head. And then apparently Francis was kind of like on his hands and knees. And the guy got like on top of him, almost like riding like and he just boom. Boom. And he was just wailing on him. And like the police come, I think it kind of breaks up. and he went over to the guy and dapped it up with him and was like, good scrap, man, like good scrap. He was very proud of himself that he could like take the beating and then he was okay. But he was like, yo, dude, like, good one. And he said the other guy was kind of like, yeah, like I beat the fuck out of you. There's not a scratch on me, but good scratch. Francis was like, you good? You like, you know, you're all set. You're gonna get out of here. Okay, cool. That's how Francis needed.
Treat it like it's a hockey fight.
It was exactly that. Except Francis needed like facial reconstruction surgery because he got wailed on. But the point was, he was like, you probably, until it happens, you worry about getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
More than actually, you know, it's like anything else in life. The worry and the fear of it is way worse than the actual thing happening, which I totally subscribe to that in everything, whether it's fighting or whatever. Like going through shit is way easier than worrying about going through shit.
Well, like the internet has made me more afraid of fighting than I used to be, because now it's like you see guys get like knocked out and then they're knocked out and they just keep beating the shit out of like an unconscious body and then they like die. So if there was like that, we could go back to a time where it's like Francis talking about like, hey, like I lost it's all, like everyone is effectively walking away, like no like real real problems, a little stitches, surgery or whatever, but like you're not trying to kill people. Like when someone's out, they're out. If we could just do that, I feel like we'd have a better, and no weapons or anything. I don't want to
the amount
I think that's more of a Chicago thing. Who are like shoot me, then we're good. Yeah.
The amount that people do that shit on camera, where they just keep wailing, and it's like, bro, you see that someone's filming that, right? Like, you're committing murder on camera. It's crazy. And then, of course, everyone's a MMA fighter or a amateur boxer or whatever it might be now. Like, even if you're just fighting is one of those things. If you're like 1% better than the average person, you have like such an advantage where everyone else is just rough and rowdy, flailing. And if you know how to throw a punch, it's lights out for the other guy.
If you're a yellow belt, then like you're
honestly, that's
you're
all
super advanced. Yeah.
When White Sox Dave cut his face on the Velcro.
Yeah.
Were you there for that live?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I would have given anything. I would trade a good fight story to have been there live. I mean, that jump, he just puts his fucking head right into it and then acts like it was the wall's fault, where he was like, okay, that's done. We're done with this thing. It's like, you're the one who headbutted the Velcro, dude. Yeah.
And look, again, I love Dave, but like that, I think there was like the embarrassment, the blood, like the whole thing. But like that was the thing with Miller Lite. And they're like, hey, like we wanted this here. They're like the big Bears sponsor. So they're going to have like their own Miller Lite tailgates at Bears games all year long. We want to have this apparatus, Velcro wall. It's going to be part of the thing. Like, will you do it? So Dave does it, gets off. He tells the Miller Lite people, that's the end of that. Like, no more. Like, this is the dumbest thing in the world. And then like, so he gets himself cleaned up or whatever. And he like goes over and has a couple beers. And I'm kind of standing in eyesight talking to a different group of people of the apparatus, the big Velcro wall. And I saw probably 10, 12 people do it totally successfully.
Totally fine.
They just didn't try to headbutt the Velcro wall. So, but he was like, they're going to get sued over this. I'm like, I don't think that they are. Like, it is a one time I saw a 50-year-old guy do it. No problem. Like basically everybody that was doing it was like at least 40 years old, except for him. And he just led with his face, but he thinks it can't be him. It's got to be. Yeah. It's got to be.
If I'm gonna have my boys back. I've watched that video 5-7 times, not to laugh, but to figure out what he did wrong. And I still can't tell. It looks like a perfectly fine jump to me. If you were to show me that video and be like, okay, now you jump into the wall, I would do exactly what Dave did.
I'm more scared for you just being stupid then, because he puts his head first.
I get that his face hit it, but like I wouldn't turn my head like this. I wouldn't have my head back. I'd just jump into the wall.
Not even that. It's down, dude. It's like he like leads with his crown of his head, like it was like a penalty in the NFL. I mean, and listen,
targeting his own head.
I would probably fuck my shit up on a bouncy Velcro wall too. That's why I don't do those things. I have my rule. My feet don't leave the planet Earth anymore. I'm always on the ground from now on. Well, but if you're not, that's one of those things. If you are not comfortable in it, you're gonna look like a spaz. You're gonna cut your face. You're gonna fall over. You're gonna do something.
There's certain things that there's no way to look good. Like if you're trying to like swat a bee away, there's like no way to make that look good. But like the comment that he had like a week later, because keeps coming up, believe it or not, on different shows. So he said that those dummies at Miller Lite, you should have put like the softer Velcro on the wall and like the hooky parts on the suit. And like that, I was like, well, Miller Lite didn't build it, and the company that built it has probably built thousands of these things. But I don't think that's the worst idea.
I was going to say that kind of
makes a lot of sense.
Logic to that. Yeah,
that one checks out.
Yeah.
Huh.
So yeah.
All right. Well, point for Dave.
Yeah,
Team Dave.
4-1 for Dave. Yeah. Still your fault, but that one, maybe there's something to that.
We talked about it on the rundown, and Dave Portnoy loves White Sox Dave so much for moments like this. And he hired him after the infamous Walter Payton Jr. TV event where he was chewing the gum and the hair and the shower that didn't take.
Yeah.
And I just, the way they describe it, when he talked to Dan, he was like, "What's up with this guy?" And he said, he's the funniest guy in the world, but it's all unintentional and he can't do it on demand. But if you keep him around, every 3 months, you're going to get like the funniest thing of the year will be from White Sox Dave. So as long as he can just fill in the gaps with some blogs and some, podcasts and some good content, 4 or 5 times a year, you're going to get a moment that the most talented blogger who can do it on command could not, can't recreate. It's like, which one do you want? It's like, in a weird way, he's almost just as valuable as some of the top guys.
Totally.
What was his thing he did with Dave Portnoy? It sounds weird to say this, but it's one of my favorite things, despite the fact that I can't remember exactly what it was. When Dave invited you guys all to Elton John, was it?
Yeah.
Yes.
What was he replied to Dave like?
So Dave sent us all an email. And it was, hey, I got tickets to it was like a suite at Soldier Field for Elton John. And I had a wedding, so I replied like, hey, thanks, but I can't go. I got a wedding. Carl replied to the whole group saying like, I'm in. Dave read it as there was only one ticket. Like there was a suite and there was one ticket available, first come, first serve. So he just never replied. And that was his excuse. But then there was like, I don't know, I can't remember all the details. There's so many like White Sox Dave like stories like that they kind of bleed together. But like to your point, I pitched merch team Allison and Pilar an idea last year, which was just a White Sox Dave calendar, which was like his top 12 like most hilarious pictures. And they're like, that's going to be hard to source. We have like some pixel resolution issues on some of these. Like, I don't know if we could. So we just never did it. But I think I sent that to them like last September.
Oh, let's do that. No, let's do that. I'm so sick. One of the biggest problems with Barstool is the amount of no's that people run into. I just hear from everybody. And there's always some valid reason. But it's like, I don't know, we'll have Trig recreate the fucking picture with the painting so that you don't have to worry about pixels. Done. Yeah. And I will fund this fucking calendar myself if I have to. The 12 months of Dave, the 12 months of White Sox Dave.
But thank God that they said no then, because I feel like there's been like 3 ads in the catalog since last year.
An annual thing. That guy's got 12 pictures a year.
12 months a day. But I said, because it like died on the vine, that idea, I brought it up like, I don't know, like 2 weeks ago on our show. Dave's like, you never told me that. Like, he's like, I didn't give consent to to my likeness. And
that was like when they
asked you, you would have said no. So,
that was like when they first introduced merch bonuses.
Yeah.
And the Christmas sweater Caleb just put Big Cat's face on.
And you're like, can I get back pay for Saturdays with the boys for this new structure?
Right. Dave is like, it's like Kramer and Walter J. Peterman selling his stories. Like I buy the rights to your dumb pictures and sell them, Dave, because they are impossible to recreate. What a legend.
He is like Kramer and Costanza, like into one person. Like that's really how to summarize White Sox Dave.
So
Except
how is
hard.
That's, I mean, there's worse people to be.
Yeah.
Are you paying too much for your wireless plan? Straight Talk just introduced the new Straight Talk multi-line plan where more lines means more savings. Just $25 a line per month when you get 4 lines with unlimited data, talk, and text, all on nationwide 5G. Plus, no contracts, no hidden fees, and no compromises. That's Straight Talk talking from Straight Talk Wireless. Available at Walmart and Walmart.com. Don't worry about using any of these big name, big company wireless plans. They always screw you. There's always additional fees and charges. They don't have good customer service. I'm dealing with service that just flat out doesn't work in my house, and I can't get in touch with them, and they're not doing anything about it. So I'm going to have to switch over to Straight Talk myself because I need better service with nationwide 5G, and I want to do it all for just $25 a line a month. Learn more at straighttalk.com. Click the link here in the description. That's Straight Talk talking from Straight Talk Wireless, available at Walmart and Walmart.com. How is the Chicago vibe these days? I know that there was this, weird breakup sort of thing that happened.
Yeah.
It's a weird one that like everybody knows about it. It was talked about, but not really in depth. And then it's just kind of gone away.
Yeah. And I think that was kind of the goal all along, is that we could just look. It was very toxic, and we were all like, I thought the shows were suffering, or our show was suffering, because it was like genuine animosity, and animosity is one thing, but like not being able to trust somebody, that's like, if I can't trust you, and you've given me 5, 7, 10 years of examples, then that for me personally, like, just makes it like an untenable situation. And it was just like we could never make progress on ideas, and we was just like, it's time to just make a split. So we made a split, and we like set it up so everybody could kind of save face, and then Carl didn't live up to that contract, I guess, that verbal contract, and was like spewing more lies. And so we just had to address it. But I really I don't think about him, that's kind of what it is. Like, we're focused on our thing. I know he's doing the baseball thing. Like, I'm not like rooting for him to fail or anything. You
should. If I have beef, I'm fucking rooting for you to fail for sure.
Yeah.
Not Portnoy level where I have like the bottle of Ace of Spades, but I'm rooting for you to fail.
Yeah, I'm checking in on your. I'm getting the updates. I want to know.
Yeah, but that's I think maybe because I just feel better about what we're doing, and I feel like we're kind of trending in the right direction. So I think if we were really struggling, maybe I would want him to struggle too.
Yeah, it's easier when you're, coming out on top of the two sides. So it's a little bit easier to just be like, whatever. And
I feel like I've only seen him since that whole thing 4 or 5 times, it's just it's almost out of sight, out of mind. And so I don't really think about him, and I just kind of try to focus on what we're doing. And, and it's just there's so much changing and going on too, that it's, I'm more concerned about how we're going to fit in, or what, to all the new dynamic, and how do we, there's we had Kate on the other day. Kate's awesome. I love Kate. How do we kind of incorporate these people and do more stuff with them, rather than focus on the one person who we're not going to do stuff with. So
it's funny what you said is so true. Cause over the years, I've fought battle Dave content wise.
Yeah.
Almost exclusive, like on every single topic, we think the opposite. Like if he says left, I say right, and it's just that's just the way it is. But I've never once not trusted him or thought. There's been times where I was like, "Fuck, this guy's such an asshole." But if it was ever anything like real about my contract, about my life, about something personal, not even like a question that he would, handle it right. Or, you know what I mean? So like, it's one of those things where you can hate somebody and then also ride with them, like no questions asked if shit goes down.
Yeah.
But once it crosses over to that, like, I don't think you, not only like you not have my best interests in mind, but like you're actively going them or only yours is what matters, whatever it may be. That's a whole different ballgame. Yeah,
and that was the thing that drove me crazy, and it was just like the lying. Like I have like a hard time lying about like anything. I just feel like even like Dave always like, you're out of we were pulling a prank on Sydney Wells, like when we were doing this hunting thing. And she was like calling her dad, and her dad was getting pissed at her. And Dave was out in the field, and I was sitting shotgun, and I broke. I was just like, it's just a joke. It's like, so Dave's like, you're in the no fun crew. I'm like, you didn't see, like she was on the verge of tears. Her dad was on. She called her dad like 3 times in 15 minutes.
What was the prank?
So I feel like it won't make sense unless you're like a hunter person, but they have all this land down in like central Illinois. And they have these like giant bucks, and they like have them on the deer cams, and they like intentionally don't shoot those. So they let them get big and their antlers get bigger. So when they finally do, it's like, more of a trophy or something. And so Dave, it was funny joke, but Dave, so they told him like, hey, like only shoot does, don't shoot any bucks or whatever. So Dave photoshopped him giving the finger over like this giant massive buck that they had been waiting and like following for like 6 years. And so it like legitimately, it was like a great prank. And it was like the last buck that they had like that on their land. So, like Mr. Wells and like, and he's in the hunting content thing too. So like, he's thinking like, I'm going to get that buck. I'm going to make content. If Sydney gets it, that's fine for Sydney but whatever, but we're going to get that buck next year, one way or another, film it, do it the right way, make it a big content thing. And she's like, Dad, like he got like, they nickname all these bucks. And he had like the calm, but like furious, angry dad reaction over the phone. And then she called him back. He's like, what are you doing, Sydney? What are you, I was like, oh my, I started to like panic and feel guilt. So like, as I'm like, Sid, like it was a joke. Like, it was like, she's like, what do you mean?
Pranks are fucked up. Cause like in that moment, if he's like, this is why I love your sister better than you, or you say something crazy, and then it's like, oh, sorry, it was a joke, but your family's ruined now.
Right. And so it was like, it was funny until it wasn't, until it like she was having like, when I can't see, especially girls, but I can't see like people cry. Like,
yeah, dude, if I was pulling a prank and I was watching humans suffering, I would
too. And that's just one of those things where I'm like, I can't lie about this anymore. Like, this is a harmless thing and I can't fucking do it. And so Dave is just like, well, you're not in the fun crew anymore. And I'm like, fine. Then I'm not, I can't be, if I have to watch somebody like have a panic attack and cry, and that is what I have to do to stay in the club, I'm out of the club.
We did that to Jackie once. She
I think I could do it to Jackie.
She forgot to record an entire ATI, and it was with Taylor Tomlinson.
That was Pabs. You did
Pabs? What did Jackie cry over then?
She cracked me up maybe as much as anybody at this company.
She's unbelievable. She's one of like those naturally funny things where it's not as like stupid as Dave is. It's more just like natural funny from her that she can't it's just like you got to hopefully ask her the right question and bring up the right topic. and then she says something, and you're just like, thank God the conversation went that direction. I thought
she does fall asleep a lot, and she's on this call, and I think she's just dead asleep.
No, I'm here. That's also sleeping. I was trying to.
What did I make you cry over with a prank? Didn't we do something to you?
It wasn't a prank. I think it was just. Oh, I was just like, I fucked up, and I didn't like. I think I didn't get the podcast up on time, and then you sent a text being like, to the group being like we can't keep doing this, all that. And then I just came in. I was trying not to cry, and then I just.
That's what it was. Yeah, it wasn't a prank. It was just that she started crying, and I was like, it's okay, it's fine, don't worry about it. Post the podcast, whatever you want. I don't care.
I got out of it though. Like, you weren't mad at me anymore.
That is like the girl trump card. Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do it if I'd seen him, but we did that with Hank when we found out that Hank was Franny Lydon. And we were like, we're telling Dave, and Hank, this is back at Milton, and Hank sat in like the little fucking cubicle or whatever, the reception desk, I think it was. And we were like, we're telling Dave, because he'd said some pretty horrible things about Dave. I think he liked K Marco, was not a fan of me.
He liked me.
I forget what he was with. What he liked you.
I think I got good comments. Yeah,
you got good comments.
This is territory where I am okay pranking somebody. If you fuck around, then it's fair game.
Yeah. And it was just like,
but Franny,
he had like a camera on him. I think D'Lo was like holding the camera on him while all day I just played fucking like "You're Fired" music, where I just out loud on my laptop. The only one I could vividly remember was I was playing "Goodbye, My Lover." It was like, and apparently this is unbeknownst to me. I thought he was just fucking wearing it on the chin and was like, fuck you, I don't like you anyway. Read the comments, bitch. And I think as he tells it, he was tearing up and had written his like resignation letter to Dave before I was like, yo, we're not, it's fine. Like, it's all good. Dave obviously did find out somehow. But I was like, yo, it's all good.
How did he find that out?
I guess maybe.
Right? I thought Hank like it was 20. Like, if I remember, it's like
or
something, and Hank just like admitted it.
Oh, it was Hank's birthday. Yes, Hank's 21st.
Hank-a-palooza. He said something like, like that Franny Lydon thing was crazy or whatever. And Dave was like, wait, what?
Dude, I forgot. I figured like maybe I said something or maybe Gaz.
Oh, he did.
No, Hank fucking ratted on himself.
But that makes me think he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Really,
but he wasn't telling on himself. He was like, he's like, as you know, I think so. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I think
no, you're right. Like it was definitely unintentional. I don't know which way he confessed, but it was for sure just by accident. And like saying he was like, wait, what are you talking about? And it's the only example in my entire life. Pretty much anybody else who does something like that, I would really be like, yo, you're a piece of shit. That's a fucking scummy move. And I just don't know why with Hank. I'm just like, it's okay, man. It's okay. He's just like too good of a guy otherwise. But like, just knowing like maybe he was new in the game, but like knowing now how much internet fucking trolls and haters and shit can like hurt and harm. To just be like, I'm going to do that and it's going to be fun is so fucking scummy. But I was like, anybody else in the world, I would like fire this guy today. And instead I was like, it's all right.
I think Dante's the one who found it out. If I remember correctly, I think because I think I didn't even like know who Franny Lydon was. I think everyone hated me. It was hard to say. I read comments at that time. It was hard to suss out who was a repeat customer and who wasn't. And but I think he used to always comment on like the Blackout Tour mixes that Dante sucks or something. And then Dante took such offense to it that obviously this is as I remember things. If people dispute it, then that's fine too. But
it sounds accurate so far.
That Dante took such offense to it that he got the IP address and had D'Lo look up the IP address, and then it was like Hank's girlfriend at the times or something like that. And it was, and then D-Lo came into the office that day and was like, I know who it is. And I was like, who is what? And he's like, I know who is commenting on all our stuff that we suck. And I was like, okay. And he's like, it's fucking Hank. And I was like, that motherfucker. Because I obviously knew at the time that stuff hurt me. I didn't know he was doing it, but I was like, what the fuck? And so I was like, we're telling on you. We're going to fucking rat you out. And obviously I didn't, but Hank took that upon himself to do.
Well, that's like, it was karma or whatever, destiny that he did get caught for it, because it's such a scummy fucking thing to do. I don't know why with Hank it doesn't bother me. It's the lowest of the low, though.
He was so young at the time, too. He was probably like 19, 20.
I'll tell you what. I swear to God, if he had grown the beard by then, I would have held him to the fire. He still had no chin, and he was still eating the sandwiches sideways, and he was breaking into the garden, the Boston garden with the butter knife. So I was just like, let him live.
It's so
like the emperor. Let him live.
It's so funny to see like him now, because it's like it breaks your brain, because it's like you talk to him about like the new office or whatever plans, and it's like, oh, like you really know what you're talking about, and then you have like a flash in your brain of like the no chin eating sandwiches backwards, and you're like, how is this the same? Like, you've grown into like a real corporate adult. Like this is unbelievable. You're a very impressive young man.
He's like Pinocchio. I'm like, you're a real boy now. You were a puppet. Now all of a sudden you're a real human.
Somehow I'm comfortable putting my future in your hands.
There's a couple IP address stories from the early days that are just like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. But Hank was the one that was just like,
the fact that IP addresses, I don't really understand exactly what an IP address is, but the fact that they can trace anything to anyone just through that.
Well, it's also, I think to like really trace people is you got to know what you're doing. But like early days of WordPress, you have like a commenter name, your email address, and your IP address. So just like boom, 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 right there. So if you took the time to like cross-reference, it was as easy as just like looking and studying. So it was not like that hard. It was just like, who the fuck would take the time to do that? But there was a couple guys here who, were getting crushed, and eventually they do take the time. And it's like, oh, you think just creating a burner email is like good enough. It's like,
it's coming from inside the house.
Exactly.
Exactly that. I love that it was Dante. I never knew that either.
Oh, that's so perfect, because Dante's like the guy to do that sort of shit. Like he's serving internet justice. Well, dude, you have grown into a like I said, got kind of grandfathered in as time went on to be one of the OG guys. And I think that the stuff with Carl and similar to the stuff with Hank is just like, even what you're describing with Sydney is like, you just kind of know which people are like the good ones and which ones are there's like good, bad, and ugly, and the list for the good people isn't always the longest here, but you're one of them. So
Chief's I was lucky enough to spend a weekend with Chief very recently in Minnesota. Chief's a great guy.
I had a great time with Feitelberg in Minnesota.
I have to wear the fact that I fired him.
Yeah.
To your defense, I think I had written one blog, so
I think I had to suppress that and black that out, because when you told me that, I truly was like, I don't remember 1 second of that, but then you dug up the email and I was like, yeah, there it is. I guess so.
I gotta say, I love bringing it up to you. It's one of my favorite things. Yeah.
All right, well, keep it up. And like I said, there is some element of that old Barstool that, with the show moving to Chicago, just try to keep some of that old school mentality, because there ain't much of that left. You got to keep that alive.
I only know one way to be. I feel like if I was like as talented as Francis, I might try more things. But now I'm glad you can say just, be the old school way. All right, that's what I'm going for.
It's easier said than done, because like sometimes the old school is not going to, get the most views or the most money or whatever. So it's like sometimes there is a trade-off, but there is like a crew of people, both fans and people at the company, that I think are like, man, it was better when it was like that. And, you guys are still doing it that way. And I know we've talked a little bit about trying to do more long form. When I did that interview with Michael Schellenberger about the aliens, you reached out being like, this is the kind of show I'd like to do. And I guess we'll put it in the hands of the fans. Like, that's something that I've always wanted to do. I kind of dabbled in doing it a little bit, and it was always like, there is an audience, but not a huge one, for at least for when I did it, that I could justify doing like a 10th podcast. But if there is, a big, I know that you've already done a lot of that on the shows in Chicago. So, but if there is a big fan base that really wants more of that, and we can kind of figure that out ahead of time, I don't know if you want to. There's just a way to garner that audience, and maybe we could launch it and try to make a more formal show with all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's what podcasting, the original podcasting to me was that kind of shit,
Yeah, and I was thinking about that too.
Am I getting cucked right now? I am getting podcucked.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you fucking watch, bitch?
Oh, but I was thinking about ways to do that made sense, and it's almost maybe it's better if it's like a series, like how Dan did the what was that? We had all like the different CEOs and people like that, and you release it as like a season. Yeah, so you could cut 3, like I come out for like a week, or we could talk about that after. But
we should do it. Let's pick like the 10 best topics.
Yeah.
Like the pyramids, the JFK assassination.
Yeah.
Like pick the heavy hitters, which, it's not like we're going to bring new information to the table, but, hopefully people want to hear the way we talk about it, and we can do a little Barstool series of like, and we'll make it well produced.
Yeah.
And it won't be that idea. Nobody will sell it. It'll just go out and be free, but we'll at least pitch it to somebody in sales, and they'll say, we'll try to sell it, and it won't. But yeah, we'll pick those like 10 topics, and then everybody who's interested in whichever topic can kind of be a part of it. And we'll do a 10-part series.
I think that sounds great.
Great. More work.
All right.
All right. Everybody go follow Barstool Chief on all socials, and make sure you keep up with Chicago, the draft, the dog walks, the mid-show, all that stuff.
Me and Mr. Portner are on the draft next week.
Yeah.
It's
something else.
What a duo that is. Holy
The first 15 minutes, we're just trying to turn Zoom on. So yeah.
It's things we don't understand. And Mr. Portnoy had first overall pick. It's one of the best 1-1s in history.
Let's wrap it up, and then you tell me, and we'll keep it out because I got it. All right, big thanks for watching. If you made it through this whole episode, that means you should be subscribed. There's so many of you out there who watch and don't subscribe, so make sure you are a KFC Radio subscriber. Make sure you get all the content when it drops. Click that button now.
I have 9 fingers. I'm still subscribed. It's that easy.